Hi, I'm Glenn Garner here at the Deadline Studio with Spy High director Jody McVeigh-Schultz. So, tell me a little bit about this trial and how it first came to your attention, and I guess what made you want to dig deeper with the docuseries.
Yeah, so the case is the case of 15-year-old Blake Robbins. He went into the principal's office um, one afternoon, was called in, and he thought he was in trouble. And the reason he was in trouble is they had a photo of him um, holding up what appeared to be like a sort of pill type of thing. And they were accusing him of possibly selling drugs. And he was like, "Why do you have a photo of me in my bedroom?" And that sort of unleashed this entire story. And I actually am from Philadelphia, and this takes place in a suburb outside of Philadelphia. And it's, a really well known school district. It's where Kobe Bryant went to high school. So he's kind of like this legend there. But also, when I was out in LA, I remembered seeing this story of, oh, this school has been accused of spying on kids through their webcams, their school issued laptops. And I knew that something that was connected to my hometown was something that I'd be interested in. And once I started digging in, like the story was just incredible.
Absolutely. I guess it probably hit home or hit close to home for you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's an area where people care a ton about education. They care about where their kids are going to college. They care about the reputation of their school. It's like a really tight knit community. And so part of what we were sort of looking at was how is this a story of, a town? How is this a story of a community? How is this a story of like who gets to make decisions about what happens to kids in a community.
what was it like meeting Blake and like seeing this, everything that he'd been through, but also, I guess, kind of what he's become in the past 15 years?
Yeah, so Blake's a really interesting person. Blake, as part of this story, moved away from that area. He lives in LA now, and he's like a really compelling main character. What's interesting is that the all the focus was on him, like as a 15-year-old. Um, but once we dug into the story, we realized, oh, he is just sort of the tip of the iceberg in this. You know, Several hundred images were taken of him. However, there was tens of thousands of images overall, and we started digging in and finding other people who had joined his lawsuit, and there were some student does,
Mhm.
quote unquote. And we were able to find one of those folks, and they now wanted to speak out, and they had their own completely different story about what had happened to them. And so it was like the more you dug into it, the more you found that was sort of beyond what was in the headlines originally.
Invasion of privacy
Yeah.
is such a real growing concern among Americans. How did this case address that, and what do you think still needs to be done to address it?
Yeah, so this case took place back in 2010. So you
Mhm.
have to think like iPhones have been out for a few years. We're starting to get used to like ubiquitous cameras.
Mhm.
Um, but people didn't really even think about the fact that a webcam could be activated and take a picture of them. And then fast forward 15 years, and it's like everything has changed, and yet surveillance is still like a major issue when it comes to education and student devices. And so we cover that, like we sort of talk about this story from 2010, but then show how things have changed and evolved. And when during the pandemic, all these high schoolers were given laptops to take home and do remote learning, well, surveillance like blossomed out of that. So we talk to kids who, when they're logged into their student devices, um, when they're logged into their school issued devices, everything that they're typing, even on like private chats, like Google Hangout chats, is being fed through this software that looks for special words and keywords to call out and then alert their principal, maybe even the police. And I think what schools are trying to do is protect kids, but inadvertently they are creating this culture where like freedom of expression is tamped down because of that, and people are often made less safe because of the surveillance that's happening to them, especially vulnerable communities.
Absolutely, and like honestly, just as someone who works from home, that's like one of my
It's a
biggest
little bit
fears.
terrifying,
Yeah.
right? And I think people assume to a certain extent that they are being watched in some way if like you're on your employer's computer. But we also assume that certain places will be private. And if you're having like a one-on-one message, like a chat with somebody, you assume no one's like
Yeah.
reading that later. And that's what was happening with some of these.
And can you tell me a little bit about working with Mark Wahlberg and his production company to bring this to life?
Yeah, so Mark's been amazing. He's like truly a champion of the project. I've now worked with Unrealistic Ideas on 3 projects. It's been an amazing experience. Archie Gips and Dave Wendell at Unrealistic have been amazing in sort of guiding this through and really like opening doors for us because you know documentary film, it needs champions like that, right? To really get these stories out there. And Amazon is our network partner, and they've been absolutely amazing in like, you know, we have this story that sort of is the rip from the headlines and allowing us to go so much deeper, and it evolved into even more. And so even people who know the story already will be shocked at what sort of really happened when you dig deep.